Hello and welcome to the Irish Tennis Updates podcast. My name is Adam and I'm your host. Thanks very much for listening. This episode I chat to Osgar O'Hoisín. I had a really enjoyable chat. During the chat we talk about how the coronavirus has affected Osgar and his tennis, his experiences of life on tour so far, also his experiences and memories and lessons from US college. He also gives his advice for juniors and for all players, which I thought was really insightful, and we also talk about much more. Just before we start, I want to say that I hope you're all staying safe and well during this challenging time for all of us. If you're looking to pass the time at home, I'd like to recommend another tennis podcast called the Bodysurf Tennis Podcast. I think they have some really interesting insights and opinions. They also occasionally do some episodes. They do some in-depth research on a particular topic related to tennis that you may not know much about. For example, I listened to one recently all about tennis before the Open era, and I found it really, really interesting. So I think that the Bodysurf is well worth a listen. You can check them out wherever you get your podcasts. Here we go. Let's get into the interview. I hope you enjoy. Perfect. So I'm talking today to Osgar O'Hoisín. I'm really excited to chat with Osgar today. So thanks, Osgar, very much for agreeing to talk to me, giving up your time.
Yeah, no worries at all. Thanks a million for having me.
Yeah, perfect. I can't wait. Yeah, just first thing I want to ask, what's your favorite food if you're treating yourself?
I think if I'm treating myself is the crucial part of that question. It's funny you asked that because actually my girlfriend was just over in Ireland and I had her bring me back some chocolate buttons because you can't get them over here. So
Oh, really?
I've been indulging in them a little bit in the last few days. So I think that would have to be my favorite.
Yeah, they're not bad. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't want to focus too much on coronavirus. I know that's the issue of the day, the topic of discussion of the day. But I guess we probably should talk about it for a minute or two. So just, I guess I'm interested to hear what was your reaction when you heard that all the events are being cancelled?
Yeah, no, it's very strange what's going on. I think I was in Mexico at the time, and it was somewhat isolated from it because there hadn't been too many cases there. So we were kind of a little bit in the dark as to what was going on in the rest of Europe and stuff. So there was rumors going around during the tournament that things might be cancelled and stuff, but no one really knew. So it was just the daily routine was the same as it always is. You know, we were training, looking forward to the matches, you know, thinking about the upcoming tournaments and so on. And then all of a sudden the referee, you know, pulled the plug on it, and then everyone kind of vanished very quickly after that. I know I had my flight booked almost immediately after that was announced, because of all of the worries with the travel bans and stuff like that. So that, it's very strange, and it you know, it interferes with your plans. But I think it's about kind of adapting to it now and seeing what happens.
Yeah, no, I think what I was most surprised by maybe was that they just put they pulled the plug in the middle of the week. They didn't even finish the week's play, which I don't know, that surprised me. I don't know, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, it was interesting to see because some of the players, like, there was ongoing matches, and you could see they were starting to look to the side of the court to see what all the kind of ruckus was about, and the confusion. And then, you know, I think a lot of them probably knew, and in the middle of their matches, that was the last match they're going to be playing and stuff. So I can't speak on behalf of them, but I'm sure that, you know, really interfered with the rhythm of their matches. And it was not ideal for them. You know, some guys were having good weeks, you know, had a few wins in a row, and then all of that was kind of wiped away. So you have to feel for them a little bit.
Yeah, it's a strange situation. So what's your plan now for the next few weeks? It's up to June. I think they've so far at least is all called off. So what's your plan between now and then?
I think just trying to still stay as focused as possible. It is difficult to do at the moment, but I think it's important. you can either look at it as like a problem and complain a lot about it, or you can try and see it as an opportunity. And I think elements of it can be an opportunity. You have more time to do things which sometimes can seem, difficult to accomplish when you're in the middle of a busy tournament week or training week. So working on things like, your flexibility, or, your doing stretching. So I know me personally, I sometimes won't be diligent enough with doing the recovery stuff, which is really important. And just overall maintaining the fitness, and trying to just stay as fit as possible, even though I know here anyway, there's not much court time available. So I haven't really been hitting in the last couple of days, but just staying physically fit and just staying focused and still trying to get better every day is important.
Yeah, I guess it's tough to keep focused, but you can kind of what you have to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So obviously it's all a bit up in the air about whether you will even get back to tennis in 2020. But what's your kind of schedule looking like, assuming we there is more play?
I think as soon as, hopefully it'll open up, in the summer or at the end of the summer. That's, I think that's everyone's hope. But just being in a position where I can come back immediately and start playing tournaments again, like was the plan up until this happened, that's still the goal. So like I said, trying to get as much training in as possible, even though it's not the easiest thing to do at the moment. I'm just waiting and just trying to stay focused, and then doing other things as well. Like, I've trying to do a bit more reading, just enjoying time a little bit away from not having matches every day. It can be a nice thing as well. So just trying to keep myself busy and productive is important. So
so I guess I want to go back now a bit to, I guess, other tennis stuff. So when you got into tennis back as a kid, what was it that made you choose tennis over other sports?
That's a good question. I'm not sure exactly. I know I played a number of sports when I was a lot younger, probably up until the ages of 14 or 15. I was doing, did a bit of football, rugby, swimming, stuff like that. Probably because I wasn't great at the other ones, to be honest, is why I stuck with tennis. But wasn't great at that either. I was by no means the top junior or anything when I was 11, 12, 13, 14. There was a lot of lads who were beating me easily enough, like some talented players. So I think the biggest thing was that I really loved playing the sport. I enjoyed playing, and I would always, I might be upset after a loss but I'd always want to go out the next day and play again and try and get better. And I was just, a bit obsessed with it, to be honest, when I was a kid, even though it wasn't necessarily, this talented junior or anything. So I think just the progression, just continuously playing over a number of years is got me to a position where I got a lot better. So yeah.
So as you got a bit older and started playing more, how much were you training, and how much of your life did that kind of consume as you got older?
Yeah, I think it was about when I was maybe 15 or 16, I started really kind of channeling the focus more towards tennis. Like I was lucky enough, I met a coach called Robert Shulver who helped me a lot in terms of just kind of cultivating kind of a belief and more of a professional focus and like a focus towards getting better and developing and actually aspiring to become a really good player, like, having aspirations to turn professional or go to Division I college in the States. He helped me kind of cultivate that belief, and then that in turn motivated me to want to train very hard and to try and get better. And so I started playing from that age of 15 or 16, started playing, a couple hours a day, as much as I could with school and so on. I was playing almost every day though, for maybe between 2 to 3 hours, I would say.
I actually know Rob. He coached me a bit a couple of years ago down in Leopardstown as well.
Ah, okay, yeah,
He's
nice.
a really nice guy.
Yeah,
Um,
he is. Yeah, and he's
do you have
Sorry, go on.
any funny stories?
Any funny stories? Yeah, I've got loads actually. We were lucky enough because there was a good group of juniors when I was that age, and we would all kind of get on very well with each other, and
Yeah,
that really helped the training environment because we were all having fun at the same time as we were getting better. And I think that's honestly a really important factor. Is just the enjoyment element of it. So just nothing really specific, just funny things which happened within training sessions and fitness testing and stuff like
yeah.
that. But yeah, I think one of the lads launched his racket over the fence, which was really funny one time, we thought. But yeah, no, just little things like that made it very fun.
Yeah. I guess that's it, isn't it? If it's enjoyable, you're gonna, you'll probably take it more seriously, and you'll do better overall.
Absolutely, I think that's one of the biggest things is especially for juniors who want to keep playing and who want to keep getting better. I think it's easy to get caught up in the results and stuff like that when you're at a young age, but in the grand scheme of things, those results don't really matter at all.
Yeah,
So if a player can just continue to enjoy what he's doing and just enjoy playing the game, well then inevitably he's going to get better, most likely, if he's putting in those
yeah.
hours. And so yeah.
Do you have one memory that stands out to you from your kind of junior days? It could, positive, negative,
Positive,
and
negative.
again, anything that stands out maybe as a defining moment.
um yeah, I can remember actually, I'd say I put this down as, it was a negative moment, but it was also a positive moment. I can remember I was seeded in Fitzwilliam, the junior tournament under
Mm.
18. And I remember kind of building up the junior Fitz tournament as being this huge deal, that it would be, like winning Wimbledon almost, and
Yeah,
putting a lot of pressure on myself to try and do well in it. And inevitably I did poorly in it every year. But I can remember I was playing Sam Bothwell. I think maybe was it quarters or semis? I can't remember, but
yeah,
he's always had my number. To be fair, he always beats me. Very talented player, so wasn't a bad loss by any means. But I can remember losing to him and just being devastated because I knew, that had been my last chance to do well in Fitz. And at the same time, then like looking back on it, I just think that it was something that I didn't need to get that upset over, because it was just another match as a junior. Like it wasn't a defining moment in my career. I think it made me stronger, because I think that sometimes, me personally, I can be too up when I win and too down when I lose. And I think
yeah,
like not being too affected by the results of matches is a really important thing, especially now when I'm playing matches week in, week out, or at least
yeah,
when I was playing matches
yeah,
week in, week out. Um, that's something that you need to stay stable. You can't get too down on yourself, and you can't get too elated. So just kind of learning from matches, learning and not being too judgmental of yourself is important. So yeah, so that was important for me.
yeah. That's really interesting. So then I guess at that kind of age, when you're maybe 17, 18, I guess you were looking at your options and you chose college in the States. So what were some of the main factors behind that decision?
um there were yeah I think it made more sense for me to go to college than to think about going pro first, because, well, first of all, I wasn't good enough to go pro straight out of the juniors. I think it's a very, very small percentage of players who can kind of break through from that age
Yeah,
straight into the top tiers. Um, so I think it was always something I was going to do, because I felt like it would be, just first of all, it would be a great experience. Secondly, I get a lot better and I get stronger, get more mature. So all of these things. And then just in terms of the resources that they have over in the States, like the facilities that they have, you can, you get your third level education, which is great. And you're also training in a really professional environment. So all of those things kind of made it almost a no-brainer when I was finished secondary school.
Yeah. So how did the process work of choosing your college? How was that?
Well, I was very lucky in the sense that my dad was he was very helpful, and he's very resourceful, and he helped me a lot. We would just reach out to coaches. We didn't use a third party or anything. We just by word of mouth spoke to a lot of different coaches and put our names kind of in the mix for players who were looking to go over to the States. And I got a little bit lucky in the sense that I managed to get a spot at like a big college, Wisconsin, which is in a very good conference,
Okay.
which has a very big, American football program, big basketball program. And so they have a lot of money in their sports department, and which trickles down to their tennis department. So I got lucky in that sense. And the deciding factor, we went over on a visit. We went on a visit to Miami and to LSU in Louisiana, and then finally we stopped in Wisconsin for a football game, and I just loved it immediately. I really liked the team and the coach and the culture that they had there. So it became quite an easy decision for me after that. So yeah.
Right. So it was 4 years you spent there. Is that right?
4 years, yeah. So 4 years on the team, and then I had one extra semester or term to finish my degree, and then I graduated just in December of 2019 before turning pro.
Yeah. So from those 4 years or 4 and a bit years, what's your best memory from that time?
Oh, that's a good question. There was lots of really good memories, and a lot of painful ones as well. I think the best one was probably when we won our first round NCAAs when I was in my second year there. We were in California, and University of Southern California, for the national championships tournaments. So having not been in the tournament for a number of years, and then being part of a team effort which got us there and won our first round, was really probably the best moment I had.
Yeah. So you hear people talking about college, and you hear it's not only a load of great memories and a great time, but also it sets them up really well for the rest of their career and life. What would you say is the most important lesson that you learned in college?
I think having perspective probably is one of the biggest things, because it's so easy to kind of get down on yourself after losses and be really happy after you get a big win. But I think in the grand scheme of things, it's just a sport, and it helps being grounded in the fact that you've got a great team around you. You're lucky enough to be part of a basically a family away from home, and just kind of understanding that the tennis results wasn't the most important thing, was important, I thought.
I'd like to move on a bit to, I guess, more like so moving on from college, maybe just to kind of tennis life a bit. So excluding any coronavirus stuff, forget about that. But how much would you train in a, say, typical week? If it's a week off, maybe between tournaments, what does that week look like?
In a week off, ideally I'd be getting 2 sessions on course, maybe a couple of hours in the morning working on specifics and kind of the development side of things, looking to work on shots you need to get better, or more technical kind of stuff. And then in the afternoon, moving more into kind of match play situations, playing more points, and training more in kind of the open play part of the game, and then also including either a strength session or a conditioning fitness type session as well. So in total, maybe close to 5 hours, between four 4 and 5 hours every day, I would say, in an off week. And then that's not also, that's not including doing your stretching afterwards, and your prehab before stepping on court, and your warm-ups and stuff like that. So, I think there's a lot to be filling your day with. So yeah, in total, 7-8 hours is what, the guys are doing, and the top guys even more, I'd say. It's full days, it's their full-time job. So they're taking every precaution to be as good as they possibly can be.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. You're busy. So in terms of the food, what's like, how careful do you have to be with what you eat, and how planned out would that be, day by day?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I think with everything in tennis, it does depend on the individual. You hear Djokovic is on his gluten-free, dairy-free, completely vegan lifestyle. But then, you can also see just really good players who, they'll eat some chocolate when they feel like they need it, and they'll for the most part, they'll eat pretty healthily. But people kind of have different ways of going about things. Like, sometimes, me personally, like, I think sometimes it's nice to it helps me stay mentally fresh if, I'm craving a bit of chocolate and I just have a little bit. Whereas other people would be thinking, I'm going to know when I'm playing my match that I was eating chocolate yesterday, and it's not going to help me on court. So I think it does depend on the individual, but for the most part, just eating, you need good carbs, you need your protein, just the usual, what you would think most people eat.
Yeah. And then I'm moving into a match week. So if you have a match on a given day, what's your routine that day, before, after?
Yeah, well, that's something that I think I've learned just as I've started, is that a lot of the training continues on during the tournament week. I think it's important to keep getting better while you're on the road, and that's something which is crucial, because there's so many weeks where you're playing tournaments and you have matches. You can't just say to yourself, oh, I had a tough match today, I'm just going to go back and rest and wait for the match the next day. I think it's important to go back on court, even if it's only for 30 minutes to an hour, to go and work on something that you could have done better in the match, or work on a specific shot, or just emphasizing the emphasis on continually getting better is essential if you want to keep moving up through the ranks.
Then in terms of, say, like, what kind of warm-up stuff do you do in the morning, and cooling down after? How does all that work for you?
Yeah, I think, like, in the warm-up, just, a lot of activation stuff. I have a lot of resistance bands, for the hips, for the back and the arms and the core, doing some core work before starting. Just trying to minimize the chances of getting injured, and also, just feeling good. So when you start hitting tennis balls, you're completely 100% ready to go physically. And then afterwards, just a lot of stretching, a little bit more activation stuff. Actually, I do a lot for my hips, just to ensure that, they don't, because my hips can get very tight, especially after long days. So doing a lot of activation stuff with resistance bands for them, and then also just stretching. And I know some of the guys do yoga and stuff like that afterwards. So yeah.
So for those weeks, what kind of place are you staying in? Are you in a hotel, or is it more like a Airbnb kind of thing?
So when I was in I think it depends, because when I was down in Mexico, the first couple of weeks, I actually Airbnb'd with Simon Carr, and an American lad, and that was great fun, because it was relatively cheap, and it was nice kind of leaving the club every at the end of the day and going back to your own kind of spot to chill. But then for the second leg of the tournaments I did there, I stayed on site, which was had its pros and cons. The accommodation was about 10 feet from the court, so you could roll out of bed and start hitting tennis balls. But also, sometimes you wanted to get away from it and there was nowhere to go really. So
Yeah.
there's pros and cons to both. Yeah, I think it depends on the tournament, where you are, but mostly trying to minimize the costs is the most important thing.
Yeah, so I just want to talk about that side of it, the financial side of it for a moment. I mean, I think people would be aware that, at the futures level, obviously there's not much money in the game and it's tough to stick over. But how tough is that, and how do you kind of deal with that?
Yeah, that's one area where I wasn't really aware how much of a factor that was going to play until I started. Costs, they can add up very quickly. Like you're going through shoes every 3 weeks if you're playing a lot.
Okay.
You're breaking strings most days. Then your accommodation and your food is really the bulk of the costs, and transport as well. But the great thing about Mexico is that they host tournaments, week after week in the same location. So that eliminates the transport costs. But I think for me anyway, Mexico is a good place to start because it's one of the cheapest ways of doing it. Because the food isn't too expensive, the accommodation is a lot better than other places. But I think I've learned to be very frugal with with the amount of money that you have, because it evaporates very quickly when you're taking care of yourself and you're buying food to make sure you're ready for your matches, and you have to pay for accommodation and so on. So the money does run out quite quickly. But I think the important thing is to think of it, as an investment. Like you're doing this because you want to reach certain goals, and this is all part of it. So you're optimistic for the future that one day you're going to be at the bigger tournaments and it'll be a little bit easier. But definitely it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's manageable if you're smart with your money. But definitely it is costly.
Yeah. So when you're traveling to tournaments, is there something in particular that you miss about Ireland? Be able to, is there one big thing that you miss?
Yeah, well, it's I think probably my family is the biggest thing. I love going home, seeing my family, and hanging out with them, my friends as well. Don't miss the weather that much. But I think it's not too bad. It's, especially nowadays, it's so easy for me to ring up my dad or ring up my mom or my brother or whoever it is. So it's and I'm lucky enough that they support me, and they try and help me as much as possible. And then my coaches are all on the other end of the line when I need that. So that isn't really too much of a factor at the moment. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What would you say is the most difficult thing about just life on tour?
The most difficult thing, I would say, is not taking the results to heart too much. Because there's so many matches, there's so many wins, and there's so many losses that you can't really get too emotional about it. Because if you do, then you find that you're thinking about it when you're playing matches. You're thinking about winning, you're thinking about losing. You completely lose the run of yourself, and you forget about the process and kind of staying in the moment. And you can, well, I know me personally, like I'll get tight, like my legs might slow down, and my racket head speed might slow down, and I start thinking about results, and then that never helps, and you can start to fall apart then when that happens. So I think just almost, I don't want to say careless kind of attitude, but really just kind of trying to enjoy it as much as you can and not worry about the outcome is essential. And just constantly trying to think about getting better, and think long term rather than short term is really important. So that's the hardest thing for me, is managing your emotional energy levels in that way.
Yeah, cool, perfect. Would you like? Do you like following the like tennis? You know, like the ATP, WTA. Do you follow much of that, or do you kind
Yeah,
of know
yeah,
it?
I do actually. It becomes quite addicting when you're surrounded by it all the time. You start to
Yeah,
understand, you know, everybody who's playing, and you start to follow the results really easily. So yeah, I'd follow it quite closely.
do you have a favorite player you'd like to watch?
Um, Apart from the top three, who are, it's always great watching them. I think everybody loves watching them. Um, I do like some of the upcoming guys are just, it's just, they're great to watch. Like I like watching Sinner a lot.
Yeah,
Then I love watching Kyrgios as well, even though he's quite controversial.
yeah,
But when he's playing and he's on, it's great to watch. A lot of the upcoming American lads are very good, like TFO and Tommy Paul. Those kind of players. Apelka as well, obviously. And then I like watching Dan Evans a lot as well, just because I
mm,
think his talent levels are just ridiculously high. So
yeah,
players like that. But to be honest, every player in the top 100, once you're playing futures tournaments, and you see how difficult it is to do well, and then you watch guys inside the top 100,
yeah.
they're all unbelievable. So it's kind of, you aspire to play at that level all the time.
Yeah. Do you find that when you're watching tennis, do you kind of pick things up and do you almost find you're learning, or are you at a stage where you kind of know what you know to work on in your couch or whatever
Oh
that
no,
kind of stuff?
I'd always trying to be learning. I don't know anything pretty much compared to what these lads are doing. Uh, so I don't, yeah, like, and the thing is, I've had a lot of help from players like Julian Bradley, and
Yeah,
others, as to the best ways of picking things up quickly, and getting better, and that's kind of helped me a lot. That's given me a lot of shortcuts, because it would have taken me a while to figure those things out. But just watching just the decision making of where players are hitting certain shots, watching yourself play, having
yeah,
like a camera to try and watch your own matches, when you're able to when you're able to see things visually like that, I think it helps a lot, because you can see what you're doing well, what you're doing
yeah,
incorrectly. So yeah, I've got a lot, I've got a million more things to try and learn, and execute. But so I think the mindset of, like, a growth mindset of always trying to get better is really important.
yeah, absolutely. Would you have a favorite tournament to watch as well? One that maybe every year it comes around, you know?
It'd have to be Wimbledon. Yeah, I'd say Wimbledon for me.
And
It's just such a nice change from, the hard court season and the clay court season, and
yeah,
there's always just a buzz around it. So that's my favorite tournament. Yeah.
have you been to watch?
I've never been during the tournament, actually.
Okay.
Never been. So hopefully one day I'll be playing in it, but
Yeah, I know. That's what I was about to say.
haven't
Hopefully, we'll
haven't
see you
been.
there in a couple of years.
Yeah, that's the dream anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm meant to go this year, but I guess there's doubt now. Is it even going to happen?
Yeah, see, everything
So,
is up in the air now. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Yeah,
yeah, it's hard to know. What's your favorite thing about tennis overall?
I'd have to say it's probably the people you meet, and the places you get to go, and the experiences you have. I think that's crucial. I know my college coach once said something to me and to the team which really hit home, was that in when you're finished college, and in a couple of years time, and you look back on your experience, you won't even be able to remember barely the results and the
Yeah.
matches. Those won't be the best memories or
Mm.
the worst memories. It'll be about, the places you went to see, and the little things, messing around with the team in the locker room, stuff like that. So, you know it's bigger than just, wins and losses, and it's a nice lifestyle, just trying to, better yourself at something which you enjoy doing, and, meeting lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds and cultures, and seeing different places. So I think that is really the best part about it.
Yeah. Right, so we'll wrap up in a moment. But I just want to ask, so you've talked a bit about maybe the plans for this year, but even going forward, do you have kind of, goals, ambitions of what you want to do in the next?
Um, well, I think trying to establish myself in the rankings is really step one, and I think that I'm playing at a good enough level on my day to be doing that. Um, so that's really the goal for me, is to try and get to somewhere maybe where by the end of the year. Well, originally it was the end of the year. If I could be
Yeah,
maybe six or 700, would be a good start for me. And then seeing a lot of main draws and getting into main draws straight away would be the next step for me. But now obviously everything is changed a
yeah,
little bit, and that's still the goal. So it's trying to stay focused and stay in good shape, and staying confident in my own game is really, that's the short term goal for the moment until the competitions start back up.
yeah. Perfect. So I want to wish you the best for those goals for the year whenever tennis resumes.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks a million, and
and
thanks a
going
lot
forward.
for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, no, same to you. I was just yeah, thanks very much for taking the time out of for talking. Want to wish you all the best.
Cheers, thanks a lot.
There we go. Hope you enjoyed that chat and found it as interesting as I did. Just before I go, I want to mention Bob Cherry. Every day this week and next week, he's releasing a home tennis drill for you that you can try while you're stuck at home. These are really simple drills, really enjoyable, also really good for your tennis. So I'd encourage you all to check him out. You can check him out on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you want, really. Just search for Be Great at Tennis. Someone else to check out on Twitter, check out me on Twitter, at Tennis Update IRE. Feel free to send me any feedback you may have on this episode, any other episode, the Twitter in general, whatever you want. You can send me a message on Twitter. You can also email me at irishtennisupdates@gmail.com. I'd like to thank you one last time very much for listening. I've been Adam. Please subscribe, comment, tell a friend if you've enjoyed the episode. Until next time, stay safe.